Today we're going to be reading Genesis 7. If you are new to what we're doing, I use my journal, I write the reference at the top, I read a chapter a day, I'm reading through the Bible, and then I write any insights in my journal. I come back and share it with you, and I'd like for you to do the same in the comments. Today is Genesis 7. If you can read it for yourself, I recommend doing that. For those of you who can't, I'll read it for us. Then the Lord said to Noah, "Come into the ark, you and all your household, because I have seen that you are righteous before me in this generation. You shall take with you 7 each of every clean animal, a male and his female, 2 each of animals that are unclean, a male and his female, also 7 each of the birds of the air, male and female, to keep the species alive on the face of all the earth. For after 7 more days I will cause it to rain on the earth 40 days and 40 nights, and I will destroy from the face of the earth all living things that I have made." And Noah did according to all that the Lord commanded him. Noah was 600 years old when the flood waters were on the earth. So Noah, his sons, his wife, and his wife's sons went into the ark because of the waters of the flood. Of clean animals, of animals that are unclean, of birds, and of everything that creeps on the earth, 2 by 2 they went into the ark to Noah, male and female, as God had commanded Noah. And it came to pass after 7 days that the waters of the flood were on the earth. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month and the 17th day of the month, on that day all the fountains of the great deep were broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened, and the rain was on the earth 40 days and 40 nights. On the very same day Noah and Noah's sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and Noah's wife, and the 3 wives of his sons with them entered the ark. They and every beast after its kind, all cattle that after their kind, every creeping thing that creeps on the earth after its kind, and every bird after its kind, every bird of every sort. And they went into the ark to Noah 2 by 2 of all flesh, in which is the breath of life. So those that entered, male and female of all flesh, went in as God had commanded him, and the Lord shut him in. Now the flood was on the earth 40 days. The waters increased and lifted up the ark, and it rose high above the earth. The waters prevailed and greatly increased on the earth, and the ark moved about on the surface of the waters. And the waters prevailed exceedingly on the earth, and all the high hills under the whole heaven were covered. The waters prevailed 15 cubits upward, and the mountains were covered. And all flesh died that moved on the earth, birds and cattle and beasts and every creeping thing that creeps on the earth, and every man. All in whose nostrils was the breath of the spirit of life, all that was on the dry land died. And he destroyed all living things which were on the face of the ground, both man and cattle, creeping thing and bird of the air. They were destroyed from the earth. Only Noah and those who were with him in the ark remained alive, and the waters prevailed on the earth 150 days. There is so much in Genesis 7. I should have broken that into a couple of days probably, because there is so much to just really sit with the smaller parts. But here are some things that I wrote in my journal, and like I said, I could have sat with this a whole lot longer and researched more and gotten a whole lot more in my journal written down, but these are some things that I jotted down. First, Noah was righteous before God in this generation. And so I was thinking about that. Who is righteous today, would you say, in our generation? It's really easy to get swept away by the things that society is doing and the standards that society is establishing. But unless we stand on the standard of the Bible, the solid rock standard of the Bible, then otherwise we're just on shifting sand. And then our standards change just based on what is going on around us and what other people will say is right or we should do or how we should live. That always is going to change from generation to generation. So I think Noah was someone that stood on the standard of the Bible, and he was righteous in his generation. I jotted down a note about, well, I'll get to that in a second. So verse 2, I jotted down, there were 7 of the clean animals, and you probably already know this, but so many times, especially as we're young, we're taught that the animals, there were 2 by 2 by 2 went in, and that is true, but there were other animals as well. In fact, this tells us there were 7 each of the clean animals. So the 5 extra pair were for sacrificing and for food. And then it said 7 each of the birds. So this is in a separate place than it talked about the clean animals. So I'm thinking that these were needed just to populate. Maybe it was harder for birds or whatever to repopulate than just a single pair. So I don't know, but it says 7 each of the birds. And then it was interesting because God gave them a 7-day warning. So in 7 more days, this is going to start happening. And so, of course, then the fountains of the deep opened up and the rain came down, which had not happened before. The rain had not come down. And so that was interesting. So the number 7 is repeated a lot in the Bible, and I think that means completion. So also 40 is repeated a lot. It was interesting to me that the ark, just as the waters rose, just lifted and it just kind of moved about, and I could just see that in my mind. In verse 21 it says, all flesh on the earth died, and the birds. That was verse 23, but it doesn't say anything about the sea creatures. So that, if you're just curious and you meditate and you think on this, little things like that pop out. And I just thought, the whales and the fish and all of that, of course they lived in the water, so they were okay. It says 150 days, so that's about 5 months that the waters were on the earth, and then, I guess that it rained, and then let me check that. Okay, so 150 days, let me double check that, because I was trying to, just out of curiosity, I wanted to figure out how long they were on the ark. So, and the rain was on the earth 40 days and 40 nights. Okay, so it says that on verse 17, now the flood was on the earth 40 days. So it rained for 40 days and 40 nights, and the flood was on the earth 40 days. And then it says, what verse was that talked about the 100 and, let me find it. Oh, it's the very last verse. And the waters prevailed on the earth 150 days. So, I was trying to figure that up, and I had some notes at the bottom. So, 150 days is about 5 months, and that would include the 40 days it was raining. It took about 2.5 months for it to recede so that the top of the mountain was seen, and then 4.5 months for the dove to find land and not come back, and then 8 months until they were able to leave the ark. So that, in my calculation, is 1 year and 8 months. It's 20 months, which is about 1 year and 8 months. So that was just interesting. I just thought that was neat to try to figure out how long they were on the ark. If you've ever been to the Creation Museum and the Ark Encounter, it is incredible, and you're able to see all of just a life-size replica of the ark, and it's really something neat to see. Finally, I wrote judgment, because this is about judgment. We have Noah's Ark painted in just cartoony fashion, and we use it even in nurseries and, of course, children's books, but it actually is about God's judgment. Think about it. Everybody on the earth died except for Noah and the animals and his family, and the animals. Sin is serious. Sin is serious. I was reading, our Sunday school lesson this week is Samson, and I will have a video posted this Saturday, how I use the Bible to teach Sunday school. But I was studying this morning, and it's on Samson. And even the story of Samson is about punishment. It was about judgment. It's about doing the wrong thing, but then God redeeming and helping anyway, and His grace being sufficient. So anyway, sin is serious, and that is the message that the Lord is showing me in my Bible time. Often when I read the Word, hear a sermon, listen to the radio, there are just many different sources, and God is when I just take the time to listen to Christian, Bible, radio, sermons, podcasts, all of that, usually something will kind of be in common with all those things over a period of time. And so then I know that the Lord is trying to get my attention about something. And so here and there and everywhere right now, I'm just hearing that sin is very serious. And so here we have the judgment of the wicked people on the earth. But always, just like with the Israelites all the way through, when they would do the wrong thing, God would come in and he would save his people and make a way. And so here's the same thing. He's made a way through Noah and his family. But sin is serious. So, and Noah was a righteous man. He was trying to stay on that right path. I wrote Psalms 1. Our pastor preached on that this week. So that was fresh on my mind. And still going along with that theme of sin being serious that the Lord is kind of playing in my mind. But it says, Psalm 1, Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stands in the path of sinners, nor sits in the seat of the scornful, but his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law he meditates day and night. He shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that brings forth its fruit in its season, whose leaf also shall not wither, and whatever he does shall prosper. I want to be blessed like that man who is on the right path and is striving to live righteously and standing on that, or walking, I guess, on that path, meditating on the law of the Lord and standing on the standard of the Bible, and not in the path of sinners or the counsel of the ungodly, or sitting and being comfortable in sin that I see around me or sin that I see in my life. I think that's something that we can strive to do. So Genesis 7, there was a whole lot there, and I hope that you've had time, or will take time, to just really let the Lord teach you. Let me pray for us today. Dear God, thank you so much for always making a way to save us. I'm so grateful, God, for this reminder that sin is serious. I just pray that you help us to stay on that righteous path, living for you and standing for you, even against the tides of our culture. In Jesus' name, amen.